Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So hello, welcome everyone. My name is Amanda Farrell. I'm a content marketer and account manager at Nextney Marketing, and I am joined today by my coworker, Aaron.
Hello, I'm Aaron Oberdick. I'm the video marketing manager here at Nextney Marketing. So take care of all responsibilities video related, whether that be on the Nextney internal side or on the client side as well.
And just some quick housekeeping, just in case any of you have the questions about this. We will be sending a couple of emails afterwards with some links that we'll be sharing throughout the conversation, some resources for you to explore a little bit further. And then you'll also be getting a survey email as well. So give us some feedback, let us know how we do. We definitely want to use that information to improve and bring you more great content. And so today's agenda, we're going to be talking about how to use various ways that you can use AI in marketing, choosing the right tool choosing the right AI tools for the right job, and the importance of good creative briefs, perfecting prompts, and improving AI content. So first, really quick brief overview of what you can expect from artificial intelligence. There's machine learning and then there's AI. And within AI, there's two broad categories. Generative, which is the main function there is to create new content like images, video, music, or text. And then you've also got predictive AI, which is designed to gather and analyze historical data to predict future trends. And when it comes to ways that you as a marketer can use AI, there's a few really great use cases for predictive AI. There's lead scoring, personalization, customer behavior prediction, dynamic pricing, forecasting, and churn prediction, as well as ad optimization. And then for generative, you've got the content ideation, brainstorming, product descriptions that it can help you write, visual creative like video, images, graphics, sentiment analysis, script writing, and storytelling, as well as some keyword research and SEO suggestions that it can give you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to chime in. I'd love to ask the chat now. Obviously, there's so many different categories of AI that you can utilize. So is there any specific category that you guys like to utilize here? Let us know in the chat, of course, and so we can explore that a little deeper. And then on a personal end, right, as the videographer, as Nextney, my main focus is always the script writing and storytelling aspect. So I do use ChatGPT a lot in that sense. And what I like to do is on the video side for content ideas, as simple as taking blog posts and then putting them into ChatGPT to generate some sort of video script, and then being able to refine that script to create new video content for Nextney and for our clients. It's been extremely helpful in that regard. So I just wanted to share that little tidbit of information before we continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep giving us some feedback on what use cases you enjoy using AI for. And on that note, I have a stat here from HubSpot's 2024 State of the Marketing report. I thought it was really interesting seeing this breakdown here of the preferred uses by the marketers that HubSpot surveyed. 45% said that they used it for ideas and inspiration, 31% to create outlines, 18% to draft content, and 6% to write. And one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this stat is that to me, it really underlines or highlights how I think a lot of people realize with AI, you really can't expect it to do the heavy lifting, but it can really help spark ideas. And, when you're coming across some writer's block, maybe you're not really quite sure just how to get started, which can often be the most difficult part of creating content. AI is a really useful tool to help you with that kind of thing. And these results really kind of speak to that. And then real quick, just touching on some of the pros and the cons of AI. Really great for automated research. You can ask the AI usually right within that platform, more questions about the content that it's giving you, understanding, ways that you can kind of augment the feedback that it's giving you and add more context to your copy. obviously helping with content optimization, SEO, increased efficiency. So when you're able to create things faster, you become more efficient, and then that leads to cost savings as well. And then there's the cons, which, a lot of us have been talking about and grappling with, things like copyright infringement, algorithmic bias, data privacy, and outdated and inaccurate data. And so I think when especially you compare the pro here about automated research with the outdated, inaccurate data, there can always be a question of, well, am I getting the most up-to-date information when I'm asking this AI for more information and doing my research here? And so a big controversy when it comes to AI, in addition to those questions around copyright infringement and plagiarism and all that, is oftentimes when there's new technology introduced, people wonder if it might cheapen or devalue the outcome, your artistic process or your creative process, whether it's in a commercial field or artistic field, right? And one example that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how technology has been used throughout time by artists is the camera obscura. It's a tool that's been around for a very long time, since ancient times. And in its earliest iterations, it was a fairly large box, usually the size of a room, and you could go into it and you'd see a series of lenses and mirrors, and it would project real-life 3D objects onto a 2D plane. So you could literally trace things that were right in front of your face. And a lot of the master artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, there's a lot of evidence that they used this kind of tool to execute their artwork. And I don't think a lot of people would say that, just because they used a tool like this to help them execute their work, that the resulting artwork is no longer a masterpiece or beautiful or of value, right? Because we as the people, as the human, we have to be the one using the tool and using it in an effective way. So without the human guiding the tool, there is no creative force. There is, of course, a question of how do you ensure you're still using AI to create original and relevant content to attract the audience that you're trying to reach out to?
And you know what? I think this actually attributes a bit to one of the previous slides that we were just discussing with the percentages of how many people use it to actually start coming up with ideas versus writing versus actually finalizing something, right? So we see a really large number of people trying to come up with a particular idea through AI, but once that idea is honed in and they have the rough outlines of it, then they're able to go in and critique it and change it a little bit and make it more human or just personalized to them. So I think this kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like with the camera obscura, right? You still have to come up with the concept. You have to still have that vision, the idea of what it is that you want to put to paper. And you have to compose the image. You have to do some editing and some addition as well. And so it's not, the tool alone itself isn't going to produce anything of value, right? So you've really got to come with the idea and the creativity. But in order to answer the question, how do you make sure you're creating original and relevant art? And we want to start with one of the best practices, which is making sure you address concerns about, copyright infringement, plagiarism, originality, all of those things. Putting an AI policy in place can really help you. It is the foundation, essentially, to guide you. And so when you're putting together a policy, there's really 4 broad categories that you want to make sure you touch on, and you can always add more if it makes sense for your business. But the first one is purpose and scope of AI in your organization. So you want to identify who's going to be using the tool and how they will be using it. Also, you want to make sure you're covering data management and compliance. Define protocols for how data is going to be handled, stored, and processed to ensure compliance with local and national laws. At the moment, there's no national law in the US. I think it's a little different in Europe, but there's very likely going to be some changes to that. So make sure you pay attention to those things as well as things change on the legal landscape. And for content marketers, especially, if you're using any sort of proprietary documents or sensitive information and you're feeding that into your AI tool, make sure you're doing that in accordance with your industry standards and your organizational standards. So you don't want to have any sort of leaked data. There was an incident about a year ago, a Samsung employee, he was using ChatGPT and inputting some private internal code into ChatGPT, and there was a public leak. So obviously, shortly after, Samsung decided to ban the use of the tool completely for all its employees, which makes sense, right? Because you don't want to risk having things like that leak. Another aspect is the risk management and accountability. Make sure you have an approval process in place before publishing any content, and engage with subject matter experts to prevent any false or inaccurate content. There's a term called AI hallucinations, many of you might be familiar with, and that can really cause issues, especially since the AI can be really convincing in some cases. So if you aren't an expert in a particular field or topic, definitely make sure you're getting feedback from people that things are correct. Also making sure that you define roles and responsibilities to ensure accountability for any errors or bias, and promote responsible use with employee training. Then there's also transparency and human oversight. So make sure you're documenting your processes. Think about any disclosure details that you want to provide. If you are using AI and you want to let people know, what does that kind of look like? And sometimes, even though there's not a national requirement for that in the US, there are certain tools that as you explore, they might prioritize that with their users. So look at the terms of use and understand, what will you be expected of or required to do when using this tool over another tool that maybe doesn't prioritize transparency in that way. Also make sure that you're doing audits of the tool and processes periodically to make sure that output is aligned with your company guidelines and industry standards. And then, of course, update the AI policy whenever needed if terms and conditions of the tool change, or if there's any new laws that require you to make changes. So next, now that we know what your policy is, we want to look for a tool that aligns with that, right? Really great quote here from Benjamin Franklin: "The best investment is in the tools of one's own trade." And this isn't meant to be an endorsement of any particular tool here. And I haven't personally used all of these tools, but this is just to give you an idea of what's out there and how you can get started. There are some free tools. There are also some paid tools. And like I said before, the terms of use is all going to be slightly different. Just so make sure you do your due diligence there and understand what the potential consequences or expectations will be in using one tool over another. And also there's a saying that I think is also really important to think about is, if you're using something free, that means that if you're using a product for free, that usually means that you are the product, or in today's world, that means that your data is the product. So definitely be really aware of how your data is going to be used. Is it going to be used to train the AI further? And if that's the case, is there proprietary information that you're putting into that AI that you do not want it to know about and that you do not want it to use as its data set? We've also got some AI tools here for visuals. And again, not an endorsement of any particular one, but definitely some really popular ones. I've used Canva a little bit here and there. The one there on the end is Google's Deep Dream. I was playing around with that one yesterday. And as I was doing more research, I noticed that there's a lot of overlap between certain tools that will also be powered by other companies' AI machine. For instance, DALL-E is OpenArt's AI, and it's used in Shutterstock's AI image generator, as well as Microsoft's Copilot. There's also a generative AI tool that Getty Images has that looks like it does a pretty good job. And when it comes to Canva, their AI generator is actually powered by a company called Stable Diffusion. So there's lots of options out there. And, again, just make sure that you do your research and understand, try to understand as much as you can about how the algorithms work and what kind of content that the tool is trained on, if it is any sort of copyright infringement issues or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And then something to add as well, a lot of these AI tools, they give you a pretty distinctive looks, right? There's like certain key indicators to really understand, like that AI tool was probably generated by Dolly, or that AI tool was probably generated by Midjourney. So just take a look at each of these tools and try to understand how they're, like, the details of each AI generation might fit your theme or branding a little more. Canva, for example, is really interesting in the sense that you can set the art style before you generate the actual art. So you can say that you want it a bit more dreamy looking, or a bit more artistic or photograph looking. So just definitely explore these options if you haven't played with any, because you'll see that even though they do relatively the same thing, they're just generating AI images and video, they still give you vastly different looks. And you'll see that as we go through the next slides.
Yeah, and kind of relating it back to maybe an art metaphor. It's interesting because when I see AI images, I can often tell that it's AI, because to me, it has this sort of look to it, a style, in the same way that an artist that you might know pretty well has a look or a style. And so if you're familiar with that artist, you can usually tell from like a mile away, even in a gallery, like that was done by this particular person. I get the same sense from AI, and I know other people also can kind of have that tell. I was watching a video about a guy who was showing some demonstrations of AI in music and how amazing and how really advanced it's gotten. But one of his, I think it was his son, he could tell right away that it was AI. So it's really interesting to see how some people can tell right away and other people can't. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting idea there.
Yeah.
And I think also too, something I've been noticing is, as I've been exploring more tools, there's been some tools that put an emphasis on this idea of being ethically trained. Adobe Firefly, they will require you to add like a watermark to any sort of images that are used in their, that are made with their tool. And then there's some other tools that have been criticized for being supposedly copyright and infringing, like Midjourney. And so, there's other concerns to be had about Firefly when it comes to if they're using your content that you're creating inside their Creative Suite to train the AI, vagueness there. But when it comes to concerns about getting sued, essentially because you're using an image for commercial use, there's definitely a lot of concern when it comes to Midjourney in that sense. And I found an article by a marketer. His name is Frank Prendergast. He did this experiment with prompts, comparing the ethically trained Firefly versus the copyright infringing Midjourney, just to kind of see what difference in terms of style you might get when using the same exact prompt. And so he did about 10 different prompts, and then he did a survey asking people, which one do you think was more successful in executing that prompt? And I've got here on the right a screenshot and an example of one of those. And I think, as you can see, I would agree with the survey that he did, those respondents. I do feel like the one on the right was a lot more successful in executing that particular prompt. But the article was published about a year ago, so I was curious to know if maybe Adobe Firefly has gotten any better in terms of the results of a prompt like this. So I fed the same prompt into Adobe Firefly. And I will say, unfortunately, my results, I don't think were much of an improvement. I don't know if you guys have been using Firefly at all and what yours have looked like, but I think when it comes to the photo realistic one specifically there on the left, I think the keyword magazine might have been throwing the AI off a little bit because it kept wanting to insert these very model-like female faces on the robots, which is a bit nightmarish. It was a little bit more successful when I switched it to the content type of art, a little bit more artistic and less nightmarish there. And then I also gave the same prompt to Canva because I was just curious to see what it might come up with, and I was pleasantly surprised with the results there. Actually, pretty stunning result in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then just to like finally illustrate the concern about copyright infringement, I found this result here from that same marketer's article pretty compelling to demonstrate just what kind of issues you might come across with if you are using any of these tools for commercial use. If your question is like, which one's more likely to get me sued, I think the results are pretty obvious here. It's clear with Adobe's version on the left. It has no cultural reference point to Marvel's Spider-Man, and it kind of just made up its own character there. And then finally, when it comes to AI tools, there's also quite a few to explore in HubSpot. There's a website generator, an AI content writer, which I have found super helpful, especially when I've written the email body message, and I'm kind of out of ideas as far as how do I encapsulate all of this into a captivating, one line to get people to open it. That's been really interesting and fun to play around with and get ideas there. And then they've also got a social media caption generator that's really helpful as well. For me, sometimes writing long form content's a lot easier than writing short form content because it's hard to know, after writing a 1,500 word blog, like how do I encapsulate the most important and relevant and interesting points into a short post, especially if it's for Twitter or something, right? So that is super helpful as well. And so now that we've thought about our tools and we've decided which tools align with our AI policy, the next best practice to make sure that you're following is to use a good creative brief. And this will provide the foundation for your AI tool to really understand what it is that you are looking for. And it'll really provide that roadmap for it to understand, a little bit more about your company and what would make sense as far as the output. Just in general, broadly speaking, when it comes to algorithms that the AI is functioning on, anytime when we're talking about data, right, input matters, garbage in, garbage out. If you're not giving it the right context, it's not going to produce anything of value or interest, definitely not something original, right? And this is where clarity and specificity definitely always lead to better quality content. So make sure that you provide context. The more context, the better output. And that's where things like the creative briefs, outlines, long form content, and summaries, that will help provide that context. And so if you aren't familiar with creative briefs, here's a quick overview of what you want to include in your outline: your company background, campaign objective, target audience, competitors, content type, key message, key customer benefits, tone of voice, call to action, and distribution channels, right? So when you're starting to use AI tool, I think a good way to think about it is it's a new hire, it's a new team member for you to train and help them understand. And if you're the boss and you're trying to get a new team member to do a specific task or come up with a particular campaign, you're going to want to provide that new team member with as much information as possible to do the task right the first time. And so they're not coming back to you with poor quality work, and that you're not having to answer more questions and go back and forth. And so having this creative brief outline before you ask the prompt is really going to help the AI understand the task better. And here's just a quick example of the creative brief. And Erin did share a blog from HubSpot that goes into more about creative briefs and templates that you can download to help you with that. So definitely check out that link there. And here's just an example of kind of what we covered here, giving you a little bit more information on what kind of things you want to expound upon when it comes to those parts of your creative brief. So after you have your creative brief set up and ready to go, this is where you're going to want to practice your prompts and kind of understand how the way that you format the prompt is also going to impact the response of the AI, right? So some tips to craft the right prompt. Make sure that you're using cause and effect language. So based on the following creative brief, outline 3 social posts, which would be your distribution channel here, focusing on this particular key benefit. Or another example would be considering the following blog post, and you're going to upload that into the AI, ask it to take 3 compelling points and turn it into a social post, things like that. You also want to make sure that you're focusing on one idea at a time. Be clear and specific about your desired outcome. Use consistent language. Don't use things like user, persona, customers interchangeably because that might confuse the AI. Try rephrasing your prompt with a synonym to see if you get better results. And also make sure that you're using positive phrasing. So instead of saying, don't be too formal, ask it to use a friendly tone.
Some things to add there as well, just let's say on the image side specifically is, and this is from a videographer perspective, but if you're looking for an AI image generation and you're looking for a very specific angle, try to think of giving it a camera angle prompt as well, because I found that very useful when I'm looking for the type of shot or the type of image I want to create. What I've noticed, if I don't put a camera angle in it, for example, like a wide shot, it might be too close up. It might be more focused on something that I don't. But if I do add some sort of camera angle, like a wide shot or a close up, I know it's going to produce a little bit more of what I'm looking for. So I know that's a little bit more of a specific example, but on the imagery side of it, that definitely helps a lot.
No, I think that's really great. Yeah, and in terms of content writing, for me, something I also let the AI know is if there's a character limit, that can be super helpful right off the bat, especially if it's a social post, especially if it's like a Twitter post that you're trying to create. Make sure you give it character limits as well. Or if you're, I don't know, there's lots of, and with the image generators too, there's often filtering abilities for you to filter kind of the style as well. But you can also provide extra context when it comes to style there too.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely play around with those parameters. If you know that there's a particular parameter in place that you have to meet, let the AI know that as well.
Mm-hmm. I also found, sorry to continue along with this, but I also just thought of one extra thing. If you want to avoid something that's very specific in your AI imagery generation, you make sure that you don't add the prompt, do not add this word, because it's taking that keyword and it's adding it in. And so what I've seen with a lot of people's mistakes is they're saying like, I don't want it to be a sunshiny day. And they write, don't put sunshine, in that sense, you want to instead say something like make it an overcast day or make it a day that's rainy or dreary. So try to like rephrase it similar to the synonyms, but just completely going off of, instead of don't add, think of the opposite and add this instead, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then pro tip here, if you keep asking it or even rephrasing your question in several different ways, your prompt in several different ways, and you don't really understand why you keep getting the same result, if it's odd, you can always ask the AI why it gave you the certain output that it did, and it will tell you. Most AIs are programmed to do this for you. It's kind of a part of the programmer's like quality assurance. I was telling Erin the other day about a video I watched of artificial intelligence robot that was doing sort of certain tasks, like doing a checkout kind of task where it was sorting items as it was checking out the person who was the programmer. And after it did that task, the programmer asked the AI robot, "Why did you do it that particular way?" And as it was completing the next task, it was also explaining to the programmer why it categorized things in the way it did. So these programs are usually pretty sophisticated and can explain to you what their programming is looking like, especially what that algorithm looks like. As far as prompt ideas go to help you with content ideation and creation, here are just a few ideas to help you get started. So if you've got like ChatGPT open and you're not even really sure where to start, here's a few ideas. The first is the obvious one. I think a lot of people use AI like a search engine these days. And so asking it questions like you would Siri or Alexa is pretty common. So, what are the benefits of using AI in content marketing is a good prompt to start off with. Another great type of prompt to use is sentence starters. So begin with a sentence and ask the AI to complete it for you. So the future of content marketing is, there's also title prompts. This is where you can ask the AI to generate titles or headlines for articles, blog posts, email subject lines, and other content. And again, here's where you can give it some of those parameters. If you don't want the subject line to be truncated, make sure you give it the character limit and experiment with length, tone, and wordplay. So an example of this could be, give me 10 attention-grabbing email subject lines to promote a webinar for content marketers on AI best practices. Focus on beginners starting out in adopting AI. Next is keyword prompts. So emphasize particular keywords or phrases related to your topic to provide the AI with clear direction on the content that you want it to generate. So an example of this might be generate social post ideas for content marketers. And here you can also give it a little bit more context about your demographic. So if it's a particular group within a group, particular type of content marketer, you can give it that context as well. Interested in incorporating AI into their marketing strategy, focus on topics for beginners and easy steps to take when getting started with AI. Another prompt would be interactive prompts. So ask the AI to write from the perspective of a particular person or persona and ask it engaging questions. So imagine you are a content marketer looking to adopt AI. What kind of questions would you have, and where would you go to find the answers? Another prompt you could think of using is the comparison prompt. So take two different topics or two different ideas and ask the AI to compare and contrast. So for instance, you could ask it to compare traditional marketing to modern digital marketing strategies and to provide 3 examples of similarities or differences. Then there's also content repurposing. So give the AI some long-form content to analyze and ask it to turn it into other forms of content. So using the following blog post, create a video script on the same subject, highlighting the most important aspects for a particular audience like content marketers. And then finally, content expansion. Give the AI a short paragraph and add, add a short content like social post and ask the AI to expand upon it. I will say though here, this is where you want to kind of use AI with some caution in that if you do ask it to expand upon itself and continue to expand upon itself, you might see some degrade of quality. That's where it can start to get really repetitive or kind of nonsensical in some cases. So just be aware when you're asking for content expansion, you might run into issues where if it starts to sound strange, it's probably because it's not right and it definitely shouldn't be used. And so now that you've got your creative brief and your prompts perfected and you've got some content that you're working with here, right? We want to find ways that we're able to improve the quality of AI and make sure that we're producing something of value, something original, and something that people are going to want to read or engage with, right? So some ways that you can refine AI content: establishing quality guidelines, give the AI feedback, humanize the content, optimize for SEO, and develop an AI content workflow process. And just going over real quick, establish quality guidelines. So if you don't currently have brand guidelines, if you don't have a brand voice outlined or defined, this is definitely a good opportunity to start doing that before you use a tool like AI. You want to make sure that it's using the correct tone of voice and that there's consistency throughout all the content pieces that you're producing. And that's true for any marketing team, especially if you're managing a lot of people or you're on a team with a lot of people. You want to make sure that you have a clear tone of voice for everything that you produce. Another important aspect of quality guidelines is having a vocabulary or a lexicon, making sure that you have specific industry jargon that you as a company use, or acronyms that you use, or specific spellings. There's various ways to spell different words, depending on, like cybersecurity, for instance. Some people, or I guess not spelling, but just how you would maybe use the word, right? So like cybersecurity, some people put a space, some people have it as one word. So depending on your company, make sure that you have those kind of things defined before you start using AI. And also let it know what jargon it should avoid or not use at all costs. Also consider formatting. Make sure that you have rules for headers, subheaders, bullet points, and how to cite sources, whether that's for internal linking on web content or printed content if needed. Make sure that you're giving AI feedback. Kind of going back to that metaphor of treating AI like a member of your team, you want to make sure that you're letting people know when they're doing a good job or when they could do a better job. And so a lot of these tools will present you with ways to let the AI know when it has produced a good image or a good bit of copy, whatever it might be. So make sure you're letting the AI know that as you go along. Make sure that you're humanizing the content. Some ways you can do this is by simplifying the language. I think even as humans, some writers, I know that me as a writer, I can sometimes use complex compound sentences, and I get dinged on that for readability with SEO tools. So make sure that you are aware of how the sentences are formed and that you are simplifying them as much as you can. Make sure that when you are creating, especially long form content, that it's scannable, that you're using bullet points and white space. AI might not always organize the content in that way. So make sure you're doing that as you're editing. Also really important is adding the personal anecdotes and humor. Adding in storytelling, that is where it's really going to help drive your originality and make it seem less like a robot created this content, right? Like we want to provide a way to connect better with people, and the best way to do that is through storytelling. Also, be sure that you're using empathetic phrasing. If this is part of your brand voice, which it might not be, but if it is, use phrases like "I understand" or "we know." Ultimately, as a company, if you're a marketer for a company, there is a particular solution you are selling for a problem that people have, right? And so this is a good opportunity to make sure that you're always adding that kind of context within your copy or your content, right? You are putting yourself in the shoes of your customers. And so you want to make sure you're doing that with AI content as well. Optimize for SEO. Really good concept to know about, generally speaking, is the EEAT. This is part of Google Search's quality rater guidelines. It's not necessarily a direct ranking factor, but it does impact the results that they serve. So it is an important concept to know within SEO. And that encompasses, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So experience is real life experience. You don't necessarily need to be a scholar in a particular industry to be able to tell a story and relate, like maybe a customer success story might fall under this kind of category. So if you've got a blog piece talking about how a customer was able to successfully overcome an issue with your product or your service. That's an example of experience, and that is going to rank higher than pieces that don't have that kind of information threaded throughout it. Expertise, this is more related to subject matter experts, people who are accredited professionals. Then you've got authoritativeness. This is where backlinks are going to come into play and indicate your thought leadership. So if other people are linking to your blog or article on a particular topic, that's an indicator that you know what you're talking about. And then trustworthiness, where you're transparent about who wrote the content, and you're editing for factual accuracy, and citing sources. So all of these are going to be really important and continue to be important with AI content. And search engines like Google, they're going to be able to weed out AI content that isn't of high quality. So keeping these principles in mind is really going to help you ensure that your content ranks well and performs well and engages with people. And then finally, we've got develop an AI content workflow. This is going to include tasks like fact check and edit, proofread for any errors or inaccuracies, and ensure that brand guidelines are followed. Get feedback from subject matter experts, whether those are internal or external subject matter experts. Find ways to inject originality with those real life examples, those thought leadership quotes, things like that, and making sure that you're improving accuracy. Make sure you've got a task there to optimize for SEO, review the blog for keyword optimization opportunities. You can utilize tools that will help you grade it on readability and originality. And make sure you update your content calendar as well, considering these new tasks that you're going to have to complete when it comes to editing and modifying the AI content. And that's all I have. Aaron, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add before we go into questions.
No, that was a really well-rounded presentation just on AI tools in general. So we will hop directly into the questions. David did ask a little bit earlier. I didn't want to interrupt you here, but he did ask how AI content is treated by Google. So an example, do we get penalized for using AI generated written content in a blog post? I don't know if you have any insight there.
I don't know about penalized, but I think I know that there's definitely tools out there that can help you determine if AI generated content is detected on your blog. I would definitely recommend maybe playing it safe for now. When it comes to Google and search engines in general, we don't really always have a lot of background and understanding how it works and all of the signals that they're using. So definitely, I would recommend playing it safe. And again, what we talked about is not using the tool for the heavy lifting, right? So you still want to make sure that you're going in and doing a good bit of editing. But yeah, I would maybe suggest looking at tools to help you grade and to scan it for any flags that a search engine might flag it for.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyone have any other questions while we're hanging out here during the Q&A?
Crickets.
I see a lot of people were just mentioning what tools they were using earlier, and I was scrolling through. There's a number of tools that I haven't even heard of. I know we mentioned Reggie.ai is something I never heard. So a lot of interesting things I have to explore after this as well.
Yeah, I definitely saw a few that I hadn't heard of before that I would like to explore later as well.
We also have an asset to share that I believe I missed it when we were on the correct slide here, but we have a roadmap of AI tools by HubSpot here. So it's the HubSpot AI 2024 roadmap.
Oh, Gordon's asking, can AI help develop personas? Yeah, absolutely, it can. But I would still definitely recommend, if you're a marketer specifically and you're not doing any sort of sales outreach, I would still definitely lean on your sales team to give you some more context around the people that they're having conversations with as well. Just like with the creative brief idea of giving the AI those guidelines, those guardrails, the AI will just kind of start to make stuff up or reference other data points within its data set that might not be relevant to your company and to your personas. So even though it could maybe give you a bit of an aha moment by providing you with some, sorry, I got a little distracted there, by providing you with some ideas to get to explore a little bit more, it won't necessarily be accurate. So that's just something to be aware of.
I see Janice is asking, what are some good SEO tools to use?
So when it comes to SEO, we are using SEMrush. I use the SEO writing assistant tool there to help grade for things like originality, SEO, readability, and tone of voice. But there's lots of other SEO tools out there. Yoast is a really popular one. They have an integration with WordPress if you're using WordPress. There's a lot of tools out there, but yeah, those are just two that I know of and I have used in the past. I don't know, Aaron, if you've used any particular SEO tools to help with content.
Not beyond the SEMrush, but it's an excellent tool.
Yes, definitely. They do have a free version if you want to try it out. I definitely recommend. That's another thing too, when you're looking at these tools, a lot of them do have, free trials or free versions. So definitely try that out before you make the investment, before you make the purchase. Get an idea of if it is actually going to integrate well into your process or work in the way that you expect it to, have the features that you're looking for. Definitely take a good look at the tools and use them as much as you can before you start paying for them. And I did look it up real quick, the question about Google penalizing AI content. According to Google's own AI overview, the answer is it does not penalize AI content, but it also means, obviously it's not going to rank it if it's poor content and it's not providing, those signals, that feedback to Google that it's good content. So even though you might not get dinged for it, you're definitely not going to benefit from it either.
Awesome. Anyone have any other questions before we wrap up? Oh, Gordon asks if we can share a little bit more about Nextany. Yeah, absolutely. So we're a relatively small agency. We're based in Sarasota, Florida, but we focus on content marketing. Amanda will be able to share a little bit more on the marketing side, but on the media side, content creation side, I specifically have responsibilities to create video for our clients as well as internal Nextany. We do like a lot of graphical design work and just general content creation in that scale. Amanda, you want to share on the marketing side what we really accomplish?
Yeah, we work really closely with people who are using HubSpot as their marketing automation tool. So for me, I do a lot of the strategizing, helping people find ways to leverage HubSpot in a more meaningful way to get the results that they're looking for as a company. I also work closely with our content team for long-term content planning, SEO, and also some SEM as well. Do a little bit of everything actually, but our main focus is really helping people use HubSpot better and get the results that they're looking for. Do I have any tips around using HubSpot or other tools to find new leads, like generating leads? Yeah, I'm not sure how to. It's a pretty broad question, right? So as far as generating leads, so the basis of HubSpot, right? The founding principle behind HubSpot is the idea of inbound marketing methodology, right? So SEO, writing content, although I would say nowadays, definitely looking towards other content type within your marketing strategy is really important in order to stand out from the crowd, because there are many different blogs written about a different topic or a certain topic, but there aren't necessarily as many videos, right? So that's where someone like Aaron will come in and definitely help with your video marketing. But making sure you have a good SEO strategy in place. And one of the tools in HubSpot that really helps with that is the topic cluster tool. It will help you. So you basically want to define your main keyword, your main topic, and then you want to make sure you're planning your content out to support that main keyword that you're going for with topic clusters, subtopics that will support that main idea, that main topic. And the reason why this is important with SEO is that it's kind of a long game with SEO. You're not going to get immediate results, so that's something really important to remember when you have this kind of strategy. But if you are writing content that is all focused on a particular topic, but different areas around that topic, you're sending a really strong signal to Google that, hey, this is what my website's about, and this is what I want to rank for. And I want you to show people looking for these relevant topics, I want you to show them me on your search engine result page, right? Now, if you're looking for more immediate results, that's where your SEM or your ad strategy is going to come in. And you also want to be thoughtful about that as well and make sure that your SEO and SEM are working together. So if you are running any sort of ad campaigns, especially if you're doing text search ads on Google, a good idea is to make sure you are targeting very similar keywords in your ads that you're targeting in your SEO strategy. So that's, I don't know if that helped, but that's where I would start. If you were a client of ours.
Definitely.
Sure thing.
All right. Any other questions here?
Oh,
I'm going to go ahead and share a link here in the chat. It's to the HubSpot study group. So if you guys have questions beyond this presentation, feel free to join the study groups and ask the relevant questions over there. Of course, we have upcoming events as well. I don't have the links prepared, but we have an office hours scheduled for next Thursday at 4 p.m. So if you're interested in AI video tools and you want to just learn a little bit more about that, I'll be doing a presentation on that as well next Thursday, same exact time, 4 p.m. here. And I can probably dig up a link very quickly for that. Amanda, anything else to share here before we wrap this up?
No, that's all I got. Just keep a lookout for the feedback survey and the follow-up email with resources. And yeah, I hope we see you all at the next one.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.